What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with Adam Ronis, bringing you the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream for Monday's main slate. What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with Adam Ronis, just incredible value kind of opening up. Let's not bury the lead here. Gordon Hayward, active, starting, no minutes limit, just $3,000 for the Celtics side on DraftKings. He's your free square of the day. Probably 100% ownership, maybe 98% ownership. I think we were talking about cash games. He's the top play, I think, in everybody's lineup just in terms of value. But, there's guys like Harden, Giannis, a lot of good matchups here tonight. How you feeling about everything? You did the playbook today.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, there are so many good plays. I don't even think you need to go to Harden or Giannis tonight. Obviously, Hayward at 3,000 opens it up if you want to go in that direction. The big concern with Giannis is this team going to have another blowout? I mean, they're favored by 12.5 tonight against the Magic. They've won 14 in a row. And we've seen Giannis still produce at 27, 28, 29 minutes, but it definitely lowers his floor. Harden's always in play, but Hayward at 3,000 is just a monumental mistake by DraftKings. He's 6,000 on FanDuel, and you could probably still use him there. I really don't see like you have to, but he's fine.
Yeah, the no minutes limit, the no minutes cap is great.
Well, yeah, exactly. When I wrote it, I thought there would be a minutes limit. And I said, even if there is a minutes limit at 3,000, you're playing him. But now we find out recently he is starting. There is no minutes limit. It's Cleveland. I mean, look, sometimes people tend to overthink this stuff and worry about ownership. It's $3,000 on Gordon Hayward, man. Even if he sucks and misses a bunch of shots, he's going to find a way to at least give you some points. You just put him in your lineup, take the free square, and move on.
And the broken hand that he had was his non-shooting hand, too. So, there's nothing here that should really impact anything. It was his guide hand. He's been able to run and all. I can't imagine there being a situation to where he doesn't, where he's limited at all. Maybe the only thing you worry about would be a blowout here because Cleveland's been blown out by everybody, and now they're going into Boston. 14-point favorites the Celtics are tonight. So if you're going to worry about anything, maybe that's what it is. But I mean, hard to go ahead and fade there. Any other matchups, game-wise that you're looking at here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Minnesota and Phoenix, that should be a very high-scoring game. Teams that play at a fast pace. We're always looking at Houston whenever they're on the slate or going against Sacramento, pace of spot for Sacramento. But, with Hayward, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before. How does DraftKings allow this to happen? I mean, he's coming back at a certain point soon. And why even price him down to 3,000 for what? You can't leave him at what he was at, 6'5". I don't even remember what he was at before.
Yeah, he was probably mid-6s if I remember correctly.
Who's going to play him when he's injured anyway? Just leave it. Why change it?
They gave him a Christmas return day. Like he said, I'll be back for Christmas. So at the very least, he's back in 2 weeks. So what are you leaving him at $3,000 for? And they had, I feel like it was a couple of days ago, they said he practiced with a chance to play. So we've known for a little bit this is an opportunity. Yeah, and DraftKings doesn't have an excuse. They're located, their headquarters are in Boston. So
there you go.
Everybody that works at that company is a Celtics fan, pretty much. In the Boston office.
At least know what's going on in the area.
Yeah, they're not missing out. So we'll just thank them again. For the free square for sure. We're going, late night hammer tonight. A game that we're always looking to target, Memphis Golden State. Memphis, one of the highest paced teams in the league. Golden State's got D'Angelo Russell back. John Morant is back now for Memphis. No minutes limit for John Morant tonight either. 220 total, -3. I mean, that's a great way to end the night there. 10:30 tips, so you get an hour and a half to wait before the game kicks off between that and the Thunder and Utah game. So possible game stack and some value to be had in that one as well, Adam. But let's go ahead. Let's jump into it. Like I said, you did the playbook, 9 games tonight. Russell Westbrook you have listed at the top here. I did the podcast last night, and 3 straight triple doubles. Is he finally starting to round back into the form? We saw a little glimpse of this earlier this season when he went off, slumped for a while, but now his price is on the way back up, and the production's followed suit.
Yeah, I mean, he's not one of my favorite plays tonight. I mean, he's definitely a tournament play just because we've seen now 3 straight games of a triple-double, and that's with him still not really shooting the ball from the field very well. Mm-hmm. So, he is pretty priced up. I think there's some cheaper point guards that I prefer, but again, in tournaments, I think you can take a look at him tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned cheaper point guards. Kyle Lowry's in my starting 5 video today. Possibly no Fred VanVleet after he left last night with an injury. Van Fleet's still, taking a ton of shots, even with Lowry back. Lowry's been productive in the 3 games since he's been back, so you got to think even if Van Fleet sits, there's going to be more usage to go around. How are you deciding between him and Marant tonight? Because they're basically the exact same price on both FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, I'd lean Lowry in cash, and you can go Marant in tournaments. Lowry's been playing big minutes since he returned, 41, 42, and 38 minutes. Probably going to get that again here tonight. They're favored by 6 over the Bulls, playing a back-to-back. I don't expect Van Fleet to play. He left pretty early. I know they list him as questionable with this knee injury. So, and Lowry has been shooting well, too, from the field the last 2 games, 12 for 22 combined, and he could take some more shots tonight. Great matchup against the Bulls. Morant, obviously, they did come out and say, I think I saw no minutes restriction, so that's a good sign because he was really starting to play well before he missed a few games with the back injury. So good spot here against Golden State. That over-under, as you mentioned, is 220, and it started off at 217, so a lot of the sharp money going on the over. And Golden State has not been involved in many overs, but if Green's going to play and Russell's going to play, I think that game has a really good shot to go over tonight. Especially Golden State has played at least 5 consecutive games on the road. So I think that's part of it. So they're back home in a pace-up spot. So Morant's a really good tournament play tonight because I don't know. I don't think his ownership is going to be high. I think people are going to be like, first game back. Let me see it first. So I think he's a good play in tournaments, especially 69 on DK.
Yeah, I mean, again, just a little bit of an insight. We do give ownership projections. Morant right now, under 5% ownership tonight is what we currently have him projected for. Something that I like a lot just in terms of, you believe in the quote-unquote revenge narrative. I know it's been a while since Rubio's been in Minnesota, but facing against Minnesota, and we love targeting Minnesota with the posting point guards. Teague is questionable. Wiggins is questionable. I think Teague is expected to play. Wiggins, we're still waiting on news there. But Rubio, filling up the stat sheet, you need the defensive stats. I'm a big fan of Rubio there against Minnesota. The one guy that jumped out to a lot of people today, and again, someone that jumped out to me on the podcast last night, was why Alonzo Ball was priced all the way down to $5,200. I see him in the playbook. How are you feeling about him against Detroit?
Yeah, again, more of a tournament play. He's very volatile. That's probably why you see that point. I mean, just look at his last 4 games on DraftKings: 31.5, 18.5, 54, and 10.5. Yeah. So. Again, Pelicans play at the 4th fastest pace. They're home. Good matchup here against the Pistons. So I can understand if someone's worried about him in cash and star. Pretty good plays. But in a tournament, I mean, he's got the ability to go 7, 8, 9x if everything works out. So that's where you want to take a shot in a tournament. So, definitely consideration for GPPs tonight.
Yep, and then you have Chris Dunn here. He's actually been starting at small 4 now, but still listed as a point guard. For both sides. Do you have interest in Dunn as sort of a core lineup play, maybe a cash game play, or is he just sort of a pivot play for you?
A pivot or a cash game play. Obviously, Toronto, tough team. But, Dunn started the last 5 games and been pretty solid. And coming off a game against the Heat, where it's 16 points, 5 boards, 3 steals, 2 assists yesterday. So, I mean, not a huge ceiling there, but solid cash game play, not a core. Like, if you come down to it and you're like, I got this much left and Dunn's there, you can plug him in.
I agree with you on that one. Going to shooting guard, we already talked about James Harden going up in Sacramento. They don't defend that position well at all. We don't have to waste too much time. With all the value, I'm expecting you're going to see probably a lot of shares of Harden in this matchup today. So again, if you in your cash games, he's probably a guy you need to have in there. I think. Do you agree with that?
I've built some lineups that I like without him. I don't want to say that you shouldn't have him in because that's kind of risky, because if he goes for 70, 75, then you're in trouble. Right. But I think especially with the Hayward value at 3, it allows you to get him in there. And on FanDuel, I think you can do it too. Yeah,
that's true. Definitely. And I mean, I'm right with you there. I made a lot of, quote unquote, fair and balanced lineups today because everybody's priced down and there's a lot of guys in that like low 7K range that has, 40 to 50 fantasy point upside for whatever reason on the slate. We haven't even got really to probably what was the chalk play before. We'll touch upon that in a little bit. You have Devin Booker. I called him out a couple of games ago, or slates ago, thinking maybe he was a little bit overrated. He's turned that right around, gone for...
He heard you.
Yeah, he heard me. And he responded, 50 and 71 DraftKings points there. My big issue with him was he wasn't taking enough shots. Well, he started taking more shots, and the production has been there against Minnesota. Again, great spot for him. So, I mean, this next tier going right down, Booker, Mitchell, Hield, how do you rank them? Do you have one favorite over the other?
For price, I'd probably lean towards Mitchell. I know he's been struggling lately, but the Jazz are at home. Mike Conley's out again, and we know that he's going to run the offense a little bit more. Booker's obviously in the better game environment. Should be a very high-scoring game. And the last time he faced the Timberwolves, he had 35 points and 12 rebounds for 65 DK points. And we know the Timberwolves not great defensively, allowing over 117 points per game. So I think Booker's got the big tournament play. I think Mitchell has a high floor. Again, I know he's been disappointing, but I expect him to rebound in this spot. And solid price on DK at 74.
Yep, I agree with you there. We'll touch on Lou Williams. So obviously, Kawhi Leonard's out. I think he's probably – we have him listed – in red currently, so I'm guessing that official lineup was released and he's going to come off the bench, which is fine. I actually prefer that. If you look at some of the numbers with Lou Williams and Paul George on the floor together this year, Williams has taken a pretty big hit. Again, it's been limited minutes, hasn't been a huge sample size, but for a guy that typically averaging 1.3 fantasy points per minute in that range with George on the floor with him, it's 0.8. So George definitely takes up a lot of that usage there, but still, I like the percentages we're looking at, and you have the games here without Kawhi this year, averaging 23 and 9. So good spot here against the Pacers, especially knowing that he's coming off the bench.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen this before with Lou Williams. I know he's been struggling a little bit recently, but with no Kawhi, they're going to need him. And the Pacers are actually favored in this game by 2. Right. So expecting it to be close, competitive games. And Williams is always capable of blowing up in this type of spot.
Yeah, for sure. At small forward, obviously we have Giannis. Pretty much the same thing we sort of alluded to at the beginning of the show. I think it's in like 4 or 5 games where he hasn't played now more than 30 minutes because of all the blowouts that they've been having, and yet he's still averaging almost 50 fantasy points in those games. So if they can ever play a close game, the upside's there. I'm a little surprised, I think, that the point spread is as high as it is because Orlando has actually been like a competitive team and they play slower, which could keep the game closer for a little bit longer. So I have some interest there with Giannis, especially getting the discount from Harden on him on DraftKings, given the value. But as soon as we heard that Kawhi Leonard wasn't going to play, you have Paul George returning to Indiana without Leonard. I thought for sure that was going to be the chalk play of the night before the Hayward news broke. DraftKings left him at $7,800, so that's even a bargain there. He's coming off 50 fantasy points from last night in a blowout, which he didn't even have to play a lot of minutes. He only played 25 minutes in that one to get to 50. So loving Paul George. How are you feeling about the rest of the small forward spot here?
Yeah, I agree. It's tough to not play George tonight, especially at that price. It just really is. Some other guy, Kelly Oubre's always in tournament play. He's been very inconsistent, but he's reached 46.5 FanDuel points in 2 of his last 5 games. Again, great matchup here against Minnesota if you look in a stack. I think Bogdanovic in Utah is a solid cash game play. Again, I think the Jazz will get going here tonight. Anubu, how do you say his name from Toronto, man? OG.
I call him Anobi, but I'm not really 100% sure. OG Anobi is how I call him, but it's got the Star Wars-y feeling,
Yeah, he's not that bad tonight either. He's coming off a very good game yesterday. He had 47 DK points in 35 minutes.
I think he benefits if Van Vliet's out because if you looked at the couple games prior with Lowry back, it seemed like and Ibaka back, it seemed like he was the one that was getting the shaft and the playing time. So if Fred Van Vliet's out, I think that will definitely help Anobi as well. So that's definitely something to pay attention to.
Yeah, and he was a little bit more aggressive yesterday once Van Vliet was out. He had 14 shots from the field. 9 came after Van Vliet left the game, and again against the Bulls. And love Joe Ingles tonight, man. Mentioned him the last couple times. With Mike Conley sitting, he's going to run the point when Donovan Mitchell's not on the court. He's going to start. He had the one bad game against the Lakers, which I think he was in foul trouble, but he has at least 37.3 DK points in 2 of the last 3 games. So he had 10 assists in 27 minutes the last game against the Grizzlies. So, I love him tonight, man. FanDuel, too. You compare him and George on FanDuel, and that's a good spot. And even on DK, too, where he's got the eligibility of shooting guard and small forward, I think he's a good spot tonight for Ingles.
Yeah, I was definitely let down by his performance against the Lakers because I was expecting the exact same thing that you said. Obviously, I didn't end up playing him against Memphis, feeling a little hurt by that production, and then he came back and did sort of what I was hoping for him to come through for us there. So I think, again, I agree with you. Good spot against OKC, who's going to be without Danilo Gallinari. They're missing some pieces there as well. Could kind of open up maybe some opportunities where he's up against some lesser talent there for sure. What other guys are you taking a look at here? I know we have some value plays. You mentioned Ingles. We have Ariza we're trying to fit in there. Hayward's obviously the guy that we're all talking about. Anybody else that we're just ready to move on to power forward?
Maybe a Kogi as well, especially since we're not sure about Wiggins and Teague. But either way, I mean, he's 3,800 tonight on FanDuel, and it's a way to save some money. Again, this is a projected total of 234. He's played at least 24 minutes in 4 of the last 5 games. So 2 fast-paced teams tonight. I think he can get there if you're looking to go a little bit lower and open up some more salary.
Yep, I agree with you for sure. Over at power forward, you have, again, a guy that was priced down for whatever reason, Siakam, $7,900. We're used to paying, mid-5s, mid-8Ks rather for him. Great spot here against Chicago. Between him and Sabonis, both $7,900 and $7,800 at the top of power forward tonight. I'm finding it difficult really to decide which one I like. How are you figuring between the two?
Yeah, it's a tough call, man. I mean, Siakam obviously has not been shooting the ball well lately, but this is a really good matchup. Could take on a little bit more responsibility with Van Fleet out. So, anytime you get a player with Siakam's upside at this price, you have to consider it. And Sabonis is just like a lock for a double-double. I mean, it's almost every game. It's 8 consecutive games now. He's got at least 39.5 DK points in 8 of the last 9 games. It's just a real safe floor. I mean, we haven't really seen a huge ceiling. So cash games, that's what you want. You want that high floor, and you get it with Sabonis.
Yep, I agree with you. What about the mid-tier? Who's some of the guys you're targeting here?
I really haven't played him all year, but I think this could be a spot for Blake Griffin. He's coming off his best game of the year, 42.8 DK points. Pelicans rank 5th in pace. They're not good defensively. And, Griffin has a high usage, 30%. So 7,200 on both sides. I think he's in play. Jaren Jackson, certainly in tournaments. I mean, I know he's volatile, and he's really started to pick up lately. 24 points, 5 boards, 1.7 assists, 1.7 blocks, and a steal over the last 3 games. We know the Warriors are one of the worst defensive teams. We talk about that total. It's being hammered up. It's all the way up to 220. I think it opened like 216, 217. So we know that there's a lot, he can easily bust and get in foul trouble, but we know there's a high ceiling there. So certainly in tournaments. Yeah. Lauri Markkanen, I don't think I've kind of considered him all year, but I see you're already side. But look, he's starting to turn around. Look, it's a tough matchup, though, against Toronto. It's the one thing that worries me. But he has been more aggressive. The minutes are up. At least 30 minutes in 4 of the last 5. The last 2 games, 36 and 38. I know one of those games was overtime. He had 37.3 DK points against the Heat yesterday. But he's taken 32 shots from the field over the last 2 games and hit at least 4 3-pointers in 4 straight. So more of it, definitely a tournament play.
Yeah.
But maybe not awful in cash because he can go 5x the way he's played. But yes, the matchup against Toronto is a little bit worrisome since he couldn't see it.
I side because I feel in years past he's been a lot better. I don't know what's happening this year with him. I don't know if it's just maybe Zach LaVine's taking on more, or if there's just a different offensive scheme running there now. But I expected a lot more out of Lauri Markkanen this year. I drafted him as a rookie a couple years ago in my seasonal league, and he was phenomenal. So I kind of also have a little, love for him in that aspect of it as well. I think Jackson is a really, really great call here. Obviously the foul trouble is what we're always worrying about, but another guy, with high upside and a good matchup here. We've been targeting the front court of Golden State for most of this year. So even with Valanciunas back healthy, I'm still in on the Jackson train. Center is an interesting spot here tonight. In the starting 5 video, I actually split it up between Drummond and Towns, depending on the platform that you're playing on. I don't know, again, what happened with Towns' price tag on DraftKings. Why is he $9,300? This makes no sense. So, again, on FanDuel, Drummond and Towns are a little bit closer in pricing, 10-8, 11-2, but, the discrepancy over on DraftKings leans me Towns even more. How are you feeling about the big 2 there on center tonight?
Completely agree. When I saw that price on Towns of 93 on DK, I was like, wait a second. And I know he's coming off a bad game last night. Now, he has had this knee issue. I think they listed him as probable. I don't know if that was a factor, but he should play. I mean, it's a buy low opportunity here.
He was questionable the game before and went for 60 still. So I think this is one of those old, he's questionable, maintenance tags,
Right. I mean, I guess the algorithm took in last night's performance. I don't know, because it's a good matchup here. Last time he faced the Sun, 31 points, 17 boards, 5 assists. So, it's hard hard for me not to play him on DraftKings at that price. Drummond, obviously, a little bit cheaper on FanDuel. He's been dominating again lately. I don't know if it was me and you, recent live stream talked about it, but he was not being as aggressive, not taking as many shots from the field. Now he has at least 15 shots from the field in 3 consecutive games. We know he's always a good shot for a double-double. So, yeah, he's definitely in play. I mean, they're 2 of the top plays at center tonight.
So we have, I don't know, the Pelicans are just messing with us. So they're not starting Alonzo Ball tonight. They're not starting Jackson Hayes. They're instead starting Kendrick Williams and Jahlil Okafor. Both are, again, basically mid-price on DraftKings. So Kendrick has actually played a lot of minutes of late. If you go over there, he's small forward, power forward eligible, $3,500 on DraftKings. He played 27 and 25 minutes the last 2 nights. I'm guessing that means Drew Holiday is starting at point guard now. Everybody's shifting down. Brandon Ingram's small forward, and Redick is going to be the shooting guard. So how does that change your opinion of Lonzo, knowing now that he's coming off the bench?
Yeah, probably. I mean, in tournaments, I guess. I don't know. This is kind of weird here what they're doing. I guess if you want to pivot away from tournaments because maybe he sees 25 minutes instead, I could see. But, yeah, this is certainly strange, and it looks like Derek Favors is unlikely to play either. So
yeah, and to your Drummond point now, knowing that's going to be Jahlil Okafor defense to start that game, does it make it more appealing to pay up for Drummond on DraftKings, or are you still taking the discount on Towns?
I'd probably still go Towns. Maybe you could find a way to fit in both. You might be able to. We got the Hayward value, so maybe you could play both.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Crazy that that's what they just decided to do there. The funny thing is they're going to start them both. They're probably going to get early subs, and everything's really just going to play out the way we expected it to.
So you know what? In that case, then if and that could be true, then you could stick with Ball because maybe people say, oh, he's not starting, I'm going to back off. For tournaments, I wouldn't. Right. I mean, the price is cheap enough to go in cash, but I don't think we need to do that tonight.
No, I agree with you. Elsewhere at the center position here, obviously we just talked about the top 2 guys at the position. You have Clint Capella, Rudy Gobert, and Montrezl Harrell. Capella's, the rebounding streak is kind of ended. I think it's no surprise that his production has sort of come down as we get triple-double Russell Westbrook back in our lives. So how are you feeling about that grouping right there?
Yeah, on DraftKings at 74, I still like him. I mean, he still, can get the double-double. And I don't think I think on DraftKings he actually might be decently old. Maybe you pair him with Towns if you want to play centers. I think that could work. And, we do have his ownership percentage at 26.94%, so you see it there. I think Gobert is priced pretty well on both sites. Again, 6 consecutive double-doubles for him. Obviously, the Jazz have had some tough matchups lately. They haven't played well. But I think, he's a solid cash game play because I think he definitely has the high floor. And Harrell, obviously, in tournaments, again, we've seen him get the increase in production with Kawhi Leonard off the floor. I mean, he's usually averaging around 21 points, 9 boards without Kawhi. I mean, 68 on DraftKings, 76 on FanDuel. So I always like him in tournaments, but especially when Leonard is out.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when Leonard is out. They have Leonard out. They're also missing JaMychal Green as well. Like, there's some other front court pieces that are missing. And, our guy Sean Mitchell, he dropped a little nugget that over the last, I think it's 2 weeks, the Pacers are allowing the 7th most fantasy points to opposing centers as well. So you're even getting, maybe even a better spot for Harrell there. How are you feeling about Steven Adams? I know he's not in your playbook, but he's been a guy, it's a little bit of a tougher matchup going against Rudy Gobert, but someone that's really stepped up for the Thunder recently, and then there's no Gallinari tonight. So I'm not saying that Adams is obviously a big offensive player, but there could be some additional shots available for him in the posts and whatnot. He's a very efficient player. The reboundings have all been there. Any interest in Adams here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, Gallo is out. That definitely helps. And I think he's finally getting healthy. I mean, there was a period there where he was playing, 24 to 26, 27 minutes, but he's been seeing an increase, and I think he's finally healthy. So certainly Adams is in play, and he's usually pretty affordable. Certainly gives you a solid floor.
Yeah, he's in the mid 6Ks, just given his recent production last 5 games, averaging 38 DraftKings points over 29 minutes, the last 5 games. So he's really starting to pop off. Against Utah in their prior matchup, very tough shooting night, only 1 for 8 from the floor, but still gave you 11 rebounds in that game for 20 fantasy points. So rebounding upside was definitely there. Adam, any final thoughts here before we wrap up the live stream? I'm expecting probably now more crazy news to break as we head into roster lock.
Yeah, definitely. We still have some time to roster lock, and I've said it for many years. Anyone who plays NBA DFS, you got to be locked in right now all the way to lineup lock, because I'm sure we'll get some type of news here in the next half hour that could change the slate.
Yeah, I mean, all those 7 p.m. games, I guess there's only one, so it's the Clippers and Indiana. I was going to say if there's more, we would have to know, but I definitely agree with you. Hopefully we'll get some more information soon, and we'll have all that information for you in subscriber chat right now. Sean Mitchell's in there, James Grande, and myself. We'll all be in there answering questions because we're just as interested in this news as you guys are. So for that, we'll talk to you all later, and good luck.